Okay, so as I go through all of the epic champions in Dragonheir Silent Gods, I wanted to talk about the top 10 list of the ones that stood out most to me in terms of just raw potential capability and epics you're going to want to think about building as you embark on Dragonheir Silent Gods. Let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, I don't want to bore you with a 3-minute disclaimer, but you know the drill. Tier lists are subjective. This is a new game. We still have tons of testing to do. I'm giving you my first impressions just based on the game launching and reading through kits and analyzing the potential that these different kits have. So definitely let me know where you agree, disagree, all that sort of stuff, and we can learn from each other in doing content like this. But okay, first up, I've got Vuch. And by the way, I'm not going in any particular order. I'm just kind of doing the 10 epics that stood out to me when I was analyzing all of their kits and comparing them. So Vuch has a passive here. Heal the ally with the lowest HP by 70% of attack when dealing damage, and the effect can only trigger once when dealing damage to multiple targets. This is just an amazingly consistent passive. It's not only going to be a heal, but it's going to be a targeted heal where we need it the most. And then we also get an A2 right here that has a chance to dispel buffs from enemies. Anytime you can do buff manipulation in mobile games like this, mobile RPGs, it is a ridiculously strong ability. And then we get a passive right here for buff prohibition. So you have two different ways to do buff manipulation while also getting a passive that targets heals where you need it. So Vuch is just obviously going to be a very, very strong and consistent epic support. Then Garas is a fun, self-sufficient tank. You have the captain ability to increase defense, and he actually wants a lot of defense because he has different things that synergize with that. You've got when taking damage, this hero has a 50% chance to gain a stack of defense up, which is going to give you 2% defense. It is undispellable, and it can be stacked up to 20 times. So he is going to be extremely tanky, self-sufficient, and they can't really do anything about that as an opponent. And then you have the battle skill right here with the ability to knock enemies up and then also give himself hit recovery for 10 seconds, which is an eternity. So again, a lot more self-sustain. And then you're going to be dispelling all buffs from himself while also healing all allies by 600% of his defense, which you are stacking up a ton of it. So we just get a ton of value, tankiness, and healing. So Garas will be an extremely consistent tank for you. Next up, we've got Dane, who has a captain ability to increase ally attack by 30% in City of Trials. And then we've got when the hero deals damage to enemies with less than 50% HP, which is going to be pretty common, we're going to be able to recharge ultimate skill by 15% every 5 seconds. So anytime that we're getting passive ability to cycle through ultimates as often as possible, that is going to be insanely strong for an epic champion. Then we have the battle skill, where when dealing damage to enemies with HP less than 50%, so a double synergy there with the HP less than 50%, a 75% chance of inflicting fear for 3 seconds. And not only that, not only the CC of the fear, but also a healing prohibition for 5 seconds, which is really long to prevent healing. So you just get a lot of CC and damage and ultimate cycling and healing prohibition, lots of value here. And then for the ultimate here, this is pretty crazy. We have a 75% chance to dispel 2 buffs from enemies within range. And not only that, we're also going to inflict attack penalty on them for 10 seconds. And again, a triple synergy with the HP below 50%. We're going to steal their buffs instead if they're below 50% HP. So when you're hitting things that are already damaged, he is really going to clean up and snowball like crazy. Then we've got Furbo with a captain aura to increase allied defense in dungeon battles by 24%. And then this is a fun one here. We've got the passive. When dealing damage to enemies under debuffs, this hero has a 30% chance of healing the ally with the lowest HP. Again, you can see that I love these abilities where it targets things to where they're needed the most. And we're going to heal them while also dispelling a random debuff from them. So not only do we heal them where it's targeted and needed, but we also help them sustain by dispelling a debuff. And then the more debuffs on the targets, the higher the healing amount. And it can only be triggered once every 1 second. But honestly, that's pretty good. I mean, every second you're able to pop this off and just get the consistent healing and also dispelling of debuffs. I absolutely love that passive. It's one of my favorite in the game for an epic. And then we're going to generate a healing nexus around the hero for 6 seconds, healing those healing ticks on all allies in range by 50% of his defense. And I like the healing over time and ticking effects better than burst heals, because we're not going to be wasting it. We're not going to be over healing. We're just going to be getting consistent sustain. And not only all that, but we get the ultimate ability here where we're going to do big poison damage while also inflicting attack penalty 2, which is going to help your whole team have more sustain on top of all of the healing and the dispelling of debuffs and things that he is bringing to the table. So I think he's going to be a really, really fun epic defense champion to have on your roster. And I have absolutely no clue how to say this name, Vuch or something like that. I'm sure it's something weird that I don't know how to pronounce. But anyway, he is an extremely fun support. You have the passive right here where when the hero is inflicted with a debuff, a 100% chance of giving them an accuracy penalty for 5 seconds. And then we have the battle skill right here where we get a big chance of inflicting the attack penalty 2 on a decent radius. And the important thing is it can be scrolled up to 100% chance. You do want to keep that attack penalty up as consistently as possible. So that's a huge battle skill. But then the ultimate right here, dispel 2 debuffs from all allies and heal them based on the target's HP. And then for each debuff successfully dispelled on an ally, the healing is increased by 25%. What an amazing support ability. One of the best in the game for an epic. You're going to dispel debuffs and do healing and be able to increase that healing. So absolutely love what he brings to the table. Next up is Lola with a captain ability to increase ally attack in all battles by 24%. And then we have a passive. When attacking enemies under a silence, we get a 40% chance to change that silence into a stun, which is going to self-synergize because she has the ability here on the battle skill to have a 50% chance of inflicting a silence for 5 seconds and then allow that to synergize with turning it into a stun. And then the ultimate right here is going to be summoning the lightning to strike a target area 3 times. And then each time we hit enemy within range, we again have a chance to silence them. And then we also have a big chance of inflicting the attack penalty 2, which is something we really want to keep up. So you get support, attack penalty, damage, a consistent passive that's going to allow us to be bringing a lot of CC and stunning targets. So I think if you built a team around kind of building around Lola's ability to synergize with silence, you could really do some cool things. Then for Nathaniel, I mainly just like the consistency of this passive that's going to be constantly popping off. So when a buff expires or is dispelled from any target on the field, we're going to heal the ally with the lowest HP by 5% of their max HP, and it can be triggered every single second. So that is just a really, really fun passive for an epic to have that will give you insane value. But we can also dispel 1 debuff from allies within range and grant them a stack of recovery over time here on the battle skill with an ultimate that's going to give us a shield and defense up for all allies for 10 seconds. And then for each enemy hit by the skill, we're going to increase the shield that we're giving to allies. So lots of toughness, healing, and sustain capabilities just coming passively and consistently here from Nathaniel. And then for Catherine, there is a mechanic I talked about a little bit ago where I don't like wasting damage, wasting healing. I don't like overkill mechanics. That's why I like sustained things. And then we have a passive here from Catherine where when the ally's HP is fully restored, 50% of the extra healing from the hero is converted into a shield for 10 seconds. So we don't waste that. We convert it into something which I really love. We have a battle skill here that's going to heal the target ally with the lowest HP and then also grant them defense up. So it can be super clutch to help them survive. And then we get an ultimate here that's going to heal all allies within range and then grant them debuff immunity for 10 seconds, which is an eternity. Debuff immunity is an insanely strong buff to get. So I really like Catherine's kit and how it's designed. And then in the 10th spot here, I wanted to give a shout out to Martina because I think this is a good epic to look out for as you're in the progression phase of the game, mainly because of the ability right here in the battle skill where you've got the guarantees a critical hit if 2 or more enemies are hit and then gains rally for 10 seconds. So when you're up in the fray, you're going to be proccing that basically every time, hitting multiple targets. As long as you hit 2 people, they're guaranteed to be crits, which is very important before you're able to min-max your gear. So Martina can be a great tank while also inflicting good support. So Martina can really be a good tank while also putting out a decent amount of damage with those guaranteed crits early game and mid game before you can min-max your gear. And I do also want to quickly give a shout out to Horus because he is going to be a very commonly used epic, and I do love his kit because, again, he's self-sufficient. When the hero is taking damage, we're going to have a 50% chance of obtaining a shield that can occur once every 7 seconds, while also being able to inflict attack penalty, while also having an ultimate that can do taunt and hit recovery and damage reduction. So he is just going to be a very sturdy and consistent tank for you to think about utilizing as well, and I do want to at least give him a shout out. So that's kind of like the 10 plus honorable mention ones that stood out to me when I'm going over all of the kits in the game. There's other epics I like. Again, I wish I could talk about 25, 30 champions, but I did want to keep it a little bit more concise here in the video. But let me know down below in the comment section which ones I missed, which ones you like, dislike, and all of that. I always appreciate your input as well. So that'll do it for me on this one. As always, I appreciate you, and thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.